What's good, everybody? In my video today, we're going to be talking about the quadratic equation and we're going to focus on completing the square. But this problem is going to be a little bit more challenging compared to our introductory video. So, when we're talking about completing the square, guys, the very first step we want to take is to move c to the other side, right? So, once we move c to the other side, we're going to have 2x squared plus 24x is equal to positive 29. And understand that I left a space because we're going to be adding something later on so we could complete the square, right? So now on the left, now what we want to do is focus on the left hand side of the equation. And what we need to understand is that this leading term has to be x squared. It can't be 2x squared, 3x squared. There basically can't be a number in front of it. If that is so, we cannot complete the square. So once I pull it out now, right, we're only going to apply it to the left-hand side because I don't want to have a fraction or decimal working with 29. All right. So now that we have that leading term as x squared, guys, the way that we complete the square is we're going to take our middle term, right? So we're going to take 12, divide it by 2, and then square it. That is going to be the answer that we plug in for completing the square. So I'm going to put positive 36 on this side, right? And then on the other side, just remember there was a 2 on the outside. So once we multiply that 2 back, we would actually be adding 72 on the other side, okay? All right. So now at this step, we're going to clean it up some, right? So we have 2 and then in parentheses x squared plus 12x plus 36. And this is equal to 101. So now, guys, just remember that we're trying to complete the square. So we need to understand what what binomial did we multiply by itself to get this trinomial? And the way that we figure this out is we're going to take that middle term and divide it by 2. And whatever we get as an answer, that is the binomial we are going to square. So basically, this trinomial is going to turn into x plus 6 to the second power. Because if we multiplied x plus 6 times x plus 6, and then we also multiplied by 2, we would get that perfect square trinomial that we have. Well, we wouldn't multiply it by 2 for the perfect square trinomial. Once we multiply it by 2, we'll get our original equation. All right. So at this step right now, guys, the binomial is not by itself. We got to get x plus 6 squared by itself. So we're going to go through now and divide by 2. And now at this step, x plus 6 to the second power is by itself. Okay? So, how are we going to actually finish off by solving this problem? Because we have an exponent of 2 and we have to cancel out that exponent. And the way that we're going to do that is remember that exponents and roots, they cancel each other out. So if I have an exponent of 2, that means I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And on the left-hand side of the equation, the exponent and square root are going to cancel each other out, and we're only going to be left with x plus 6. And then on the other side, because we cannot break that 50.5 down anymore, we're going to keep it the same under the radical. However, don't forget that now it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 50.5. That is a very important step to remember. Plus or minus, and then your square root or whatever comes after it. So now at this stage, guys, we still have not finished this problem. We have to get this x absolutely by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and that is going to give me x is equal to negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 50.5. So at this step, we're done with the problem. However, I want to show you guys another way to write your answer just in case your teacher does not want you to express it like this. So if your teacher asks you for two separate answers, we could have one, x is equal to -6 plus the square root of 50.5. That's one answer. And then the other answer, we could have x, not x plus, I'm sorry. X is equal to -6 minus the square root of 50.5. So when we're talking about completing the square, guys, remember that you're gonna have two different answers and you have to get x by itself. But before we wrap this video up, I'm gonna ask that if you found this video helpful, leave some comments down below for us, smash the like button, let us know that the videos are helpful. But before we go, as I said, I want to go back and I want to do this problem where we do divide everything by 2, and let's see if we could actually get the same answer. So let's write this problem back over, right? All right, let's write this down. So let's say my first step, I said, okay, Mr. Peters, that first process was too complicated for me. I'm gonna take my chances with decimals. So what we need to do at this step right here, guys, is we're going to divide everything by 2. Okay. So now we both sides we divide by 2. And what happens to this quadratic equation is we're going to have x squared plus 12x minus 14.5 is equal to 0, right? And now we're going to now to complete the square process, it's going to we're starting it again. So what that means is now we're gonna move C to the other side. So now 14.5 is gonna be added on both sides because we're trying to complete the square, right? So let's add this on both sides. All right. So we've added on both sides, and now we're at the step where we're trying to create our perfect square trinomial. And if you remember from the previous problem, all you do is divide that middle term by 2 and then square it. So that means we're going to add 36 on the left side and 36 on the right side. And once we do this now, we're going to break down that perfect square trinomial into its binomial. So now we divide x, not x, I'm sorry, we divide the middle term 12x by 2 and we get x plus 6. So x plus 6 to the second power is going to give me this trinomial, all right? And on the other side, it's going to be equal to 50.5. So now if you guys are following along, you're saying, okay, Mr. Peters, I understand. I see how we got that answer. So at this step now, like I said before, we're going to cancel out that exponent by taking the square root. So I take the square root on the left side and I do the same thing on the other side of the equation. So at this step, I have x plus 6 is equal to the square root of 50.5. And like I was telling you guys, do not forget the plus or minus in front of the radical. And then for our very last step, we're going to get x by itself. And I'm going to shorten the video and just write the answer. X is equal to -6 plus or minus the square root of 50.5. So, guys, hopefully one of these methods was helpful for you guys in understanding how to complete the square. If you found this video helpful, like I said earlier, smash the like button for us. I'm Mr. Peters, and this is our completing the square video part 2. Thank you guys for joining us today.